Welcome back to the Living for His Glory podcast. I'm here with, I don't know if a friend is the correct word, but he's definitely close to me. Keith Galloway, or to me, it's Coach Galloway. So I'll probably call him Coach throughout this episode. Keith, that didn't sound right to me. But he was my assistant principal my 4 years in high school. And more than that, he took a great mentorship role for me while I was here as well. I was involved in several extracurriculars that you led me in, that you led a few others in. You were a baseball coach for what, 20 years ish?
19 years here.
19 years here. You've been working here at this high school for 29 years, assistant principal for 16 of those years. You've been the athletic chaplain for 9 years. You have an amazing experience. You have a great background just in being a mentor to kids. I know I'm not the first one. I know I'm far from the last one. You have an amazing just ability to, and while we may not always like it, because I know you take on a disciplinary role sometimes, at the end of the day, you have our best interests at heart. And you are, I don't know how comfortable you are with it, but I know that you definitely are more than willing to let us know, hey, this is what I'm seeing, and give us great feedback and just do the best that you can to help us succeed in life after we graduate, after we move on. And honestly, our relationship after I graduated has been proof of that to me. You've been able to, even in the short conversations we've had, feed into me a little bit. I think you are a perfect guest for this podcast. And we're just going to talk about that, talk about mentorship and doing that faithfully and living faithfully and just everything that means. So, Coach Galloway, how are you?
I'm doing fine. It's great to be on with you, and thanks for the opportunity to share and talk about mentorship, but also just to catch up.
Absolutely. Catch up. Just talk about Jesus.
Yes,
We love talking about Jesus. He's a great guy.
he is. We get a picture of that at Christmas time more than any other
Yeah, that's
time
right.
of the year in terms of the world. They capture the joy, the love, the peace, the hope that's out there because of Jesus. But we as Christ followers know that that doesn't come down to one day or 2 days. If you're including Easter, it's year round, 365 days a year and 24/7. So
That's right.
we know he's awesome at each one of those moments. So
100%. This is actually a question that I've had for you because so this last semester that in college, I've had times where I've taken on, I wouldn't say taken on, that might not the right word, but I've had these incoming freshmen, I've befriended them and we had a great relationship. And there were some times where I've been able to feed into them, to mentor them. And there have been times where I've messed up pretty bad and things got pretty messy. And so I think a great question to ask, not just for the podcast, but for my own selfish ambition too, is what do you do to prepare yourself to be able to faithfully mentor someone who's willing to be mentored and just be able to lead by that example?
I think the biggest thing is you just have to provide time and accessibility, whether it's a student that's having some troubles outside of school and they're coming back, picking your brain on how to handle situations. You got to make yourself available to them and allow them to know that, hey, they can call anytime, day or night. They can stop by anytime, and you're going to make that opportunity and that effort to listen. And the same is true for an adult that's your senior. I've got people in my life that are in Bible studies that I'm with that are older and younger than me. Again, it's about spending time with them. And I think that builds up your credibility. That gives you the opportunity to speak into their life a little bit more. You're not going to be able to speak into somebody that's brand new. You talking about freshmen the same way that you're able to talk to one of your teammates and classmates that's in your grade. Now, they've seen evidence of you for 3 years or 4 years, and the freshman's maybe seen you for 4 months.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to be patient with that process. But I think just spending time and making yourself accessible is the biggest part of that.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. I had a professor, he was my church history professor. He's one of those guys that he's interesting. I like him, but he's very blunt, and what he thinks is what he thinks. It's also hard to win a debate against him because he's that certain, but he's also that smart. He said something earlier in the semester where it was like he thinks it's a dumb idea to befriend a student, like that teacher-student relationship. And I'm wondering if that carries into the mentor-mentee relationship where necessarily being their friend could ruin that, could distort that, could cloud some things and cause some things to not get translated as well and even make things messy. What would be your attitude or philosophy or just response to that in regards to how you've mentored?
It is tricky and it is different being the teacher and the student. When I stepped into this role out of the classroom into administration, the first principal that I worked with was Keith Hall, and he's now school administrator out in Frisco, Texas, at a Christian school out there. But he gave great advice to me, but also to any of the teachers that we interviewed. He would always kind of draw it out on a piece of paper, and he would say, it's important for students to know that you're the teacher and they're the student. But he would say, you can either want the students to like you or you can want the students to respect you. But you can't have both necessarily. If you go toward the like, then pretty soon you're going to become just like them. If you want them to respect you, then they may end up liking you. But if you keep that respect intact, they're going to grow to become more like you. But if you are all about the likes, you're going to go more toward them. And you as the teacher or as the mentor, you have more of the expertise or you have more of the experience. Hopefully you've walked with Christ a little bit longer. So if you want them to become more like Christ, you've got to look for respect. And so for your professor, him saying things bluntly or him speaking truth the way he sees it and views it and has experienced it through his whole life, he doesn't want to waver from that standard because that's the standard of excellence that he feels like God has put in his heart and has taught him through his years. But it's a delicate balance. Again, you don't want to come across, if you want to truly mentor somebody, as the know-it-all, because a huge part of being a mentor and having that mentor-mentee relationship is being a good listener. And if you're just providing all the answers or all the viewpoints, then you may shut down that mentee and they may not want to listen. And that's a huge part of it's listening to one another. That's part of the beauty of the Bible studies I'm in. I have 3 different Bible studies I'm a part of. On Monday mornings, I lead a Bible study with our students, a group of guys from sophomores to seniors. We meet before school at a local restaurant, and I just get a chance to pour into those student athlete leaders. I've identified 1 or 2 from different teams, sports teams here at school that I think are leaders or have the potential to lead. Then on Thursday mornings, used to be on Wednesday mornings, but this semester it's on Thursday mornings. I have a small group of men that I've been a part of. That Bible study's probably been functioning for 18 to 20 years. The four of us that are a part of it now have been really meeting for probably the last 4 or 5 years. And then on Friday mornings, I do a coach's Bible study. And again, some of those coaches have been with me all 9 years that I've been in the athletics chaplain. I get a chance to listen to those guys and learn from them just as much as they get a chance to listen to me and learn from me.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like that, talking about respect, I love it because I respect that professor greatly.
Yes.
He's somebody that I learned to respect almost immediately at the start of the semester. I remember getting his class, they're scheduling his class last spring, and I hadn't had him before, and I've heard some things about him. I was like nervous for this professor. I don't know what I'm going to get. Like he's been called temperamental at best. The best comparison that they said that he could find for him was that he was like a cat. He either liked you or he didn't. And there's nothing you could do to say otherwise or do otherwise or prove otherwise.
You going through here, you've seen Coach Siemens, you've seen Mr. Mers or Coach Mers. They do a good job of balancing that friendship, but also they're your teacher. They're the expert in their classroom on their subject matter and about life too. They're both very wise men. I think you respect both of those guys, but there is a friendliness that they have. But if they were going to side one way or the other as friend and likability or as mentor and teacher, they're going to go to the mentor teacher. Hey, respect me because I know what I'm talking about in my subject matter and about life.
100%. If I went out with Mr. Siemens to Los Dos Amigos, I still remember that. Yes. I guarantee the conversation would be much more of that, more maybe more of that respect, mentorship, conversations. There's a purpose behind a conversation rather than if I were to go with my buddies and we just poke around. And those are both teachers that I love. And Dr. Parks here, I love him and I love you. I like all four of you guys. But I'm thinking back on it, thinking back about how the relationship started and thinking about how they are now. Yeah, the respect was there first. I respected Dr. Parks immediately, just out of the gate with the energy he brought to the classroom, how much he clearly loved us. And honestly, his out of the gate, just ability to hold everybody accountable. If he thought somebody was being unfaithful in their schoolwork, it was immediately called out. And I had him during COVID time, so we were all masked up and everything, but his ability to still lead the classroom, keep everything in check, and still make it a great atmosphere for learning was fantastic. And then I think about Mr. Mers. Mr. Mers, I think had everyone's respect on the first day when he was able to go around the room and point at each single one of us and could perfectly tell us our names. First day of school. Didn't need a learning curve. Didn't need to ask anybody who what their name was. He knew us all from the get-go.
Because he had spent time that summer
Yes.
memorizing faces with names, and
Yeah.
he just already wanted to hit the ground running. But
100%.
that's certainly earned respect right out of the gate, didn't it?
Absolutely. It did. I was like, I've never seen that before. I never will see that again.
Probably not.
Most people will never see that ever. He's one of a kind. Like, I think that touches on like when it comes because my next question for you was because respect's a fickle thing because there's a lot of worldly perspective on respect. And I think even for men of faith, because I know it's drowned out a little bit for me, it's hard to discern where biblical respect is. Hey, what the Bible says this is what respect is versus what the world says this is.
I think where my mind goes with that is respect doesn't have to be a fickle thing if we stay centered on humility. And when that person, whoever it is, whether it's your neighbor, whether it's a professor that you have, whether it's the mechanic that you're interacting with that's working on your car, if you have a certain amount of humility or that person has a certain amount of humility, then we can both respect each other. We don't have to agree on what's being done to the car.
Yeah.
You can say, and I'd rather wait 3 months before I get this done. I don't have the funds to do it right now. Please respect that decision. If you come across humble with your attitude and your response, then hopefully they will accept that. Or if he says, no, this is something that's urgent, I really feel like it's going to be unsafe for you to drive your car unless you spend this money and get this done. If he comes across with a humble attitude, you're going to be able to respect that. If he just comes across as, hey, he's a know-it-all, and you lose respect to where you think, he just wants the money out of my pocket, it's a different thing. So I think as men of faith, Jesus was the most humble in the way that he entered this world. I was listening to a message by Alistair Begg this morning on the way in here, and he's talking about Jesus entered the world with deep humility. He's going to come again the second time with great majesty, but we have to live out the humility part of it. And I think that will help us get a lot more respect and keep that respect intact, no matter who we're dealing with.
What do you think? Because we talked about Mr. Mers and how from the first day of class, like he did something to like, yeah, hey, that was respect worthy. I want to give you my respect. What do you think about the phrase respect must be earned?
I do think it has to be earned. He earned it right out of the gate. Other teachers don't know your name on the first day. They may not know it the first month or the first semester. It may take them longer to know your name, but hopefully you're going to develop respect for that teacher. And the reason that they're going to earn that respect is because they show up every day to teach you. They spend time away from their family or away from their home, especially if they're a female teacher and they have kids at home or kids at school. They could have chosen to stay at home, right? But they came and said, I'd rather teach 100 students every day rather than my child. So hopefully they're earning that respect that way. But the way that they earn that, your peers, you all come into college together at the same time, your freshman class, and you don't automatically just respect them. They have to earn your respect before that happens. You go into a new semester this year, you're going to have to, those teachers and professors that you have, they're going to have to earn your respect. You don't just automatically respect them. So I agree with that statement. Now, as a Christ follower, you're automatically going to hopefully think the best of them when you enter their class and give them some rope to earn that respect. You don't necessarily want to stiff arm them right from the gate, right out of the get-go, and say, I don't respect this professor. As a Christ follower, you're going to want to hopefully love them well and give them the opportunity to prove their worth and their value. They all have worth and value in God's eyes. We as humans, we should naturally value them as well.
So do you think you could still love them like Christ would and does, but not quite respect them?
Yeah, I think over time, there's certain, you probably have family members or extended family members that you're going to love, but not necessarily respect the decisions that they make all the time.
Yeah.
There's a track record. You may have that uncle or that cousin that's just blown it in so many different areas, and you just say, I don't respect the decisions that they make. I'm still going to love them, but yeah, I think that is true.
Yeah. So when we're going back to the mentorship thing, I mentioned earlier at the start that I don't know how comfortable you are with it. Maybe after so much time, you've gotten pretty comfortable with it, but you definitely have the ability and the willingness to have a tough conversation and give some strong feedback, even if it may hurt, even if it may not be what somebody wants to hear. So we'll separate into a two-part question. One is what allowed you to gain that willingness and ability to do that? And two, what have you determined, or as a vague rule, because every situation is different, the best way to have that conversation?
First question is, if you'd have asked me the year before I stepped into being an administrator as assistant principal, I would have said, I'll never be in administration. I wouldn't have thought that. I saw myself as a teacher, as a coach for all of my professional career. And that year, this was back in the 2010, fall of 2009, spring of 2010, there were just different things that unfolded that year. And I could feel a stirring in my heart that God was going to do something different. I'd been presented a couple different positions here at school, and I'm like, no, I don't feel called to do that at all. Then we got to early May, and they were switching gears, and they were going to change from a dean of students to an assistant principal. And Mr. Hall put that out there, and I just started feeling like, God, I know I've said I don't want to be an administrator, but I feel like this position is something that you're pulling me towards. And so I came in one day and I just said, hey, Mr. Hall, I know you all have advertised for an assistant principal. Do you feel like I would be a candidate worthy of possibly pursuing that? And he had an affirmative answer on that. And so the rest is history on that part of it. But to answer your question, I think it's a call. You got to feel a call to do that and speak truth and give hard messages. Because a year before that, I would never have thought that I would be the one delivering hard discipline messages to students or to their families, etc. Second part of your question is, I do think it's a skill that's developed over time. I think it becomes easier as you gain experience. You see a couple of different things happen. I really think whatever position you step into, a work position, the first year, everything's new. The second year, a lot of things are still new. The third year, you've seen most of what you're going to see. Every year brings something new. But by year three, you've seen most of what you're going to have to handle. And so I think that helps the job become easier to be able to share hard truth with people. Again, it doesn't matter if you're in business, it doesn't matter if you're in the service industry where you're serving people, it can be a waiter or waitress. You're going to have some hard customers that you're dealing with. And I see that out of my daughter when she worked at Wild Eggs throughout college. She'd come home and tell us stories, and just some demanding families or demanding individuals. And sometimes they were repeat customers. And so she just knew when they walked in the door, I'm just going to have to learn this skill. And I'm going to have to speak truth when I need to, but I'm going to have to do it out of love. And the love part of it, it's a balance, but you got to have both. And to be a mentor, you've got to have both truth and love. To live life with your family, you got to have both truth and love. And if you're all truth and no love, you're not going to get very far. No. If you're all love and no truth, things are going to get off the rails really quick. And again, that happens in the home, it happens at the workplace, it happens in church. If your pastor's always just speaking love and there's no truth, that church is going to be a train wreck, right?
Yeah.
But if they speak all truth and no love, he may be speaking to an empty building after a while.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. I've seen it, especially with the church. But my pastor down in Nashville, he does that so well. I've not really had any intimate time with him. He knows who I am. I've reached out, I've talked to him a little bit. We've never gotten lunch or anything, but I'm hoping that this coming fall I actually get to intern with him because if I don't do an internship, I don't graduate.
I would
And
advise you to do that.
yeah, and he's awesome. Like the way that he shows up and leads our church down there, it's called Way Church. It's only like just over 2 years old. My first impression of him was, wow, this is a really great preacher. He's one of the best preachers I've ever heard. And then as I got to hang around more and then get to know him a little bit better and also the culture and that this brand new church, I'm like, he's a really good leader. He's not just some voice or some face. Like the way that he shows up in love and truth, like when he's preaching sermons, I'm like, that's some good truth right there. He's not like sugarcoating. There's some things in every sermon that doesn't quite make it, whether it be a time thing or whether it might not be the right context for it. But the way that he delivers truth and delivers his sermon and really makes it specific, there's rarely a sermon where he's preaching to the entire congregation. Like we did this 6 week sermon series in October, and oh my goodness, it was good. He called it the birds, the bees, and the Bible.
Okay.
And so there was one sermon was like how to be a godly man. The next one was how to be a godly woman, which in the how to be a godly woman, I sit pretty close to the front. And so I get in there, I look, and I'm sitting in the middle. I look to my left, I look to my right. There's not another dude in this row as I'm listening to this sermon about how to be a godly woman, and I'm thinking, I better be quiet. Don't snicker, don't lie, like nothing.
Yeah.
You better stone cold face, just paying attention. I'm not even gonna take a note. But and he attacked some really good things. He talked about how to date biblically, how to fight biblically in your marriage, like it was a really good 6 week series, and there was a lot of truth in there. There's a lot of uncomfortable conversations, and his whole grounding for it is when the church is quiet, when the world is loud, there's only one side that's getting any input in, and it's the wrong side. So in these hot topics and these hard conversations, like if the church is quiet, we're losing. Like we're losing. We can't let the world be loud when the church is quiet.
You have to speak. You have to speak truth. Hopefully we've loved well enough for somebody to listen.
I agree. And the way that he's able to love and even in that truth, like the way that he loves even in that sermon, even if you don't know him, you don't sense condemnation.
I'll give you an example here. I do have to have hard conversations with students, whether it's dress code, whether it's issues that they've had in the classroom, they're being disrespectful for the teacher. They land in my office, they get in trouble. But the very next day, I'm going to turn right around. I'm going to greet them in the parking lot or at the student entrance. I'm going to serve them at lunch the next day. And so I try to help them understand I'm still going to treat you with respect the very next day. I'm not going to treat you any different because you got in trouble yesterday. And again, that's that love truth balance in effect, right? They get a chance to see, hey, I loved you before you got in trouble. I'm going to love you after you get in trouble, and I'm going to serve you.
Yeah.
And that's what your pastor there in Nashville is doing with his congregation, being a new church plant. I'm sure he's learning people on the fly because it's a new church plant, but the ones that have been with him from the get-go for the first 2 years, he can speak a little more truth into their life, but he's going to love them all from day one.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's definitely been my experience with you because I'm not goody two shoes by any means. I've made my mistakes, but there's never been a time where I'd show up to school the next day after getting into trouble, or honestly, even on that same day, if it's something happened maybe earlier in the day and I had to see you later that day, like I never picked up on any overriding or overlasting tension or animosity or, hey man, you're still in the doghouse. You know what I mean? We had our conversation. What the steps that needed to be taken were taken. And from there, you're just able to move on. You're just able to continue loving your students well, loving me well, which is a hard thing to do sometimes.
You're lovable, Luke. Come on. But think about it as a father-son or a father-child. Your children are going to make mistakes. You've got to, if you just hang things over their head and it just hangs there, you've got a broken relationship or at least a wall that you're putting up in between you and your child. And that's not healthy.
No.
And so our Heavenly Father's love is unconditional. And so, as a good earthly father, I've got to have unconditional love for my child when they make mistakes or make decisions that are unwise. Same thing with me as a teacher or administrator here or as a coach. If, as a coach in baseball, you're going to have players that are going to make mistakes, you're going to have players that are going to get in trouble. But if I don't show them love the very next day or even later that day, as you're describing, they're going to be questioning themselves. Oh, where do I stand with coach? Is that going to make him the best player that he can be? No, he's not. For him to be the best that he can be and serve our team the best, he's got to know that there's unconditional love between him and I'm ready to start loving him again almost immediately. That's hard to do, but it can be done if I rely upon the Holy Spirit to do that and say, I'm going to love bigger than myself. The earthly part of me, yeah, I still want to be mad at you, but that's not going to be what's healthiest for you as a student athlete or as a competitor. If you're doubting, how do I even relate to my coach? You can't be thinking about that and then concentrating on the game at hand.
Absolutely. In my experience, not just experience, but in my study of theology, there's no greater separator than shame. Like what separates people, what makes people alone or feel alone is shame. Like when even back when Adam and Eve first sinned in the Garden of Eden and they hid from God, a God that loved them, a God that created them, a God that they knew, and they hid not just from God, but even from each other by covering themselves. They hid from each other because they were so ashamed because all of a sudden they sinned. All of a sudden they ate from that tree, and so much shame came in the world, and they started to hide. And now, yes, there was a punishment there. They got kicked out of the Garden of Eden, and sin continued to roam the earth, and it still continues to do so. Hiding only makes it worse. And there's a strong difference between shame and conviction. If you instead chose to follow that worldly desire, that fleshly desire, stay mad, then I have no reason to ever want to open back up to you. Then I'm never going to overcome that feeling of shame without some deep inner work myself. I'll never want to overcome that shame. It'll just stay deep down within me. And I'm going to foster a little bit more anger at you, and that's going to fester, and it's going to cause an even bigger divide between us. Now, rather, if you do it the way that you do it, if you do it the way that my dad did the same thing, right? Where now it's, hey, this happened. Consequences need to happen. Like you don't just get out of everything scot-free. You know, one of my dad's biggest things is he says, if you break the law, you can't just go around saying, it's okay. Jesus forgives me. No, you're still going to jail, man. Jesus forgives you. That's fine, but you're still going to jail.
We back in the fall, Mrs. Payne, who's our female spiritual life director, and Mr. Cheeks, our male spiritual life, they did a sermon series, and I think Miss Payne did this main topic, and it was regret, shame, and guilt. She addressed all three of those things. And again, going back to that story, if you are my student athlete and you've done something wrong, and I just continue to keep a stiff arm towards you or keep you in the doghouse, your shame continues to build. And what did you say happens? You get more anger toward me. The more angry that we are at each other, then over time, we've got a bigger wall built between us. But then let's say you graduate and you're out the door. As a coach, all that I'm left with is now regret. You may have some regret as well, but I'm going to definitely have regret because I didn't get the best out of you because I kept that stiff arm or I kept you in the doghouse. And now your potential wasn't met, and I got nothing to really show for it except regret. And then it's going to be too late. Whereas if I can, hey, forgive you, move on, hey, coach you the next moment or the next day with love and give you opportunities, you get a chance to grow. I get a chance to see that, and our team gets better.
Absolutely.
But that's the way it is in life too, as a family unit. You're going to have kids make mistakes. Us as parents, we make mistakes. We've got to have that give and take relationship where we forgive, we love unconditionally, and we continue to grow. When you think about your toughest times with your parents, it could have been when you were in middle school, it could have been when you're in high school, it could be as an adult. The thing that helps you move forward is when you've experienced their love. You've also demonstrated love back to them.
Yeah.
When the love piece is out of there, then nothing really changes.
Yeah.
Love brings about change. Who is God? God is love. That's what changes us from the inside out. So,
yeah, that's right. I have love. When you bring love into the equation, emotions also come in, because love is much more than an emotion, but it definitely brings out a lot of emotion. And one of the emotions that we as humans face is anger. And so let's say somebody does something like it's more than just a, hey, I need to come in and provide some disciplinary action, or hey, say, hey, this is not okay. It actually, there's something about what happened that gets you to your core and genuinely upsets you, and genuinely, what does it look like for you to deal with that anger and try to manage it in a way that the relationship stays healthy, while you also are able to maturely and healthily manage that anger, manage that negative emotion?
again, I think it starts by how you start your day. What are you listening to first? Are you listening to worldly things? Are you spending some time in the Word? Are you listening to podcasts that are sermons? And are you getting truth, God's Word, in your mind and in your heart early on? I think that helps set the course and tone for your day, so that when those ugly actions that show up in a school day or at home, you're better able to handle those. Now, I'll admit, I don't always handle it great. Sometimes students do things that really fly all over me. If they're very disrespectful to a teacher and I see that continue, or if it's a substitute teacher that's in a classroom and a group of students are being really disrespectful to that substitute, it bothers me big time. And I can get angry and go from 0 to 100 in anger quickly on that type of situation. I probably won't make the best decisions in that moment. So I've got to remove myself. And sometimes I'll even tell that teacher, hey, let me just handle it in a little bit, move on with class. I will revisit it with that student later where I can cool off
Yeah.
and be able to speak truth. Sometimes I've not handled it and I can be at that 100 point, and thankfully God sends somebody else through here. It may be Miss Payne walking by and she can see the anger in my demeanor, and she may be able to say, let me speak to that for a second, or let me just run to interference for a moment.
Yeah.
But I've had that happen over, again, this is my 16th year in this role as assistant. I've had that happen 2 or 3 times where somebody in this front office has sensed that they either heard my voice raise, which I typically don't raise my voice when I'm addressing students, or they've seen the anger, they've seen the steam coming out my ears, and they've ran interference. And thankfully, because it would have put me in a position where I probably would have made an unwise decision.
Yeah.
But again, that's us being a part of God's team. And again, just like mom and dad, they're a team for parents of children. Sometimes a parent's getting ready to fly off the handle, and the other parent sees that. They can't be quiet in that moment. They got to speak up, and they've got to run interference and say, hey, I'll handle it right now.
Can't let it get to too late.
But if we try to handle things on our own, then we will make mistakes. And if we try to allow God's Spirit to lead us, then again, hopefully we will make a better choice and a wiser choice and do it with more love.
Absolutely. I'll get angry, and all of a sudden I'll start thinking of things I could say, some things I can come back with, some things that I'm just like, I shouldn't say that. And then sometimes there are times where I'm like, yeah, screw that, I'm going to say it regardless.
Usually end up regretting that.
I usually do. Yes. Usually, and even if it's not something massive, it does end up being something that's, it just put a dampener on the relationship. It just didn't help.
That's where a good teammate comes in. You can be ready to blow a fuse out on the golf course. If you've got a good teammates, they will see that escalating, and they're able to either say something that helps you get you back in line, or point you to, I call it a focal point. When I was playing and/or coaching, I had focal points. It might have been a verse that was written in the palm of my baseball glove, or If I'm coaching on the basketball sideline, it may be a verse address that I've written in my hand. It may be a cross that I've drawn in the dirt as I'm coaching third base, but I'm going to do something that's going to help me get back to that focal point of Christ. Hey, how would Christ handle this situation? Your teammates, you as a teammate, can speak truth into the life of that freshman that's not as mature as you spiritually, and they're getting ready to go off in a situation that's going to hurt your team. You may be able to speak truth into that. We all have friends in our life. Brian Ray is a great friend of mine. I call him Coach Ray because he was our student athlete development coach here for a long time. But he and I talk almost daily. Either he'll give me a call or I'll give him a call or a text. And again, we just are able to help balance each other out to where we get centered back on Christ.
Yeah, absolutely. That accountability is, I mean, it's an incredible part of it. It's awesome that you have people even here just in the workplace that are willing to, they see it and immediately, okay, let's intervene. There's no fear of, oh, I don't want him to snap back at me, or I don't want to cause any more issues like just between us as coworkers. It's, we can't let him fly off the handle. Let's go and calm this down. And even if it wasn't, we talked about Mrs. Payne, like could be anybody, right?
Yes.
Could be anybody in here. Anybody would, talking about Mr. Cheeks earlier. I'm sure Mr. Cheeks would come in and intervene if he saw it. Like that level of accountability is an amazing place, is an amazing thing to find. And it takes a lot of maturity to be able to accept that accountability. I've got an accountability group I've been meeting with. We meet over Zoom every other Thursday.
Awesome.
But it's still clear that, hey, pick up the phone and call us. There's always going to be somebody available. There's 5 other guys that are with me. None of us are from the same state. Rudy's from Ohio, and he just moved to Kentucky, but he's over near Elizabethtown, so not super close. But either way, it's pick up the phone. Somebody will answer. Somebody somewhere, whether it be accountability over a particular sin that we have, or even it's just, man, this has been a really tough day. I need a reframe. I need somebody to really set me straight. I got a buddy right now that needs a reframe. He's been going through, it's just a tough breakup. They dated for almost 2 years. Things have been just overall tough. Not gonna go into specifics, right. But he'll call me at this point. It feels like it's at least once, maybe twice a week, just needing a reframe, not spiraling. And that kind of thing requires incredible maturity. Hey, like I'm not in a good spot. Just call somebody that's a few states away, 8 hours away,
Right.
just to get that reframe. Being open to accountability is a superpower.
Yes. It's biblical. You've got the Barnabas, you got the Paul, and you got the Timothy.
Oh, I love their dynamic.
You've got to have all that. But the biggest thing that was helpful for Paul being the effective minister and missionary that he was, Barnabas's encouragement, right? And sometimes they didn't see eye to eye, and Barnabas took somebody under his wing, and Paul went his way with somebody else, and it may have been Paul and Silas and Barnabas and John Mark. They were able to reframe things, is the term that you used, and both of them went out with their pairs and did ministry, great ministry, and then they came back together because they were serving the one true God.
Absolutely. The Christian faith, at least with what I've learned this semester in my church history class, the Christian faith at its core is about unity. It's not to say that we don't have disagreements as believers. I'm sure if me and you found the right topic, me and you would disagree right now. But at the end of the day, me and you, we both know that we're both servants of the Lord. We're both children of God, and we both want to live that out faithfully. And we both want to minister well in that. And have that communion, and it's not just about having communion with each other, but it's about going out in the world and stealing one more person from hell, which I don't like that. I don't like that term either anyways, like stealing people from hell. I'm like, no, hell steals people from heaven. Hell was never our home, ever.
That's not God's character to steal.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, either way, it's one of his own commandments to not steal. We were created to live with him. If those who choose not to live with them don't live with them simply because that was a decision that they made.
Yes.
As unfortunate as that decision is. But like I said, like Paul and Barnabas came back together no matter what disagreement they had prior, because at the end of the day, they knew that they both loved the Lord. They knew that they both wanted to do missionary mindset when they were both able to do that.
Barnabas is such a great encourager. He encouraged John Mark, and when John Mark had disappointed Paul, Barnabas took John Mark, helped him mature, and later on they were all able to come back together.
Yeah.
Paul and Silas did their thing.
Yeah. I should know more about Barnabas and Paul. I know far more about Paul and Timothy. But like you talk about the encouragement that Barnabas had with Paul, with John Mark, like the way that Paul encourages Timothy it's awesome. I love it. I work with this organization down in Dallas called Rise Up Kings. Changed my life when I went through one of their events. Last summer, I went back to volunteer for an event, and at the end, me and the other volunteers, we got to give our like a 1 minute speech right to the guy. So of course I took two because you know me. I took two.
That's all right.
And somebody had to cut me off too. When I finished, there was another guy. He was there because I think it was his son that had come and had graduated. And he said, "Do you know the verse that you referenced when you were giving your thing?" And I was like, "No." And so he pulled out this verse where Paul was encouraging Timothy to fan the flame, to keep the good fighting the good fight. I'm like, huh, that is what I said. I love that. Fan the flame, keep fighting the good fight. Like that encouragement, not just from believer to believer, but mentor to mentee. Being a mentor is not all about teaching.
Right.
It's not all about truth. It's not all about, hey, you messed up here and it's okay. And we're just going to move on and we're going to learn better. It's encouragement. It's believing in it. You know what I mean? There have been times where I messed up, had to be disciplined, had to be talked to, had to consequences need to be taken. But there are also plenty of times where you fed into me, where you encouraged me. It's been that way with any teacher, with any professor, with any mentor I've ever had. My dad, you, we've talked about Mr. Siemens, Mr. Mers, Dr. Parks, that professor that I was talking about with church history, Dr. Hoskins, like every single one of them has provided encouragement, but every single one of them has also provided correction. Every single one of you guys has provided maybe some discipline, maybe some things I didn't want to quite hear. Like it's that balance of all of it goes into it. Balance is an interesting word because it's okay, a little dash of this, a little bit of that. It's all of it just thrown in the pot together.
And I think as you get older, you're going to see, especially in a husband-wife relationship, your wife's going to speak truth to you. She's going to say some hard things that you need to hear, but she's also going to love you.
Yeah.
And I know I became a better coach once I got married because I realized how my wife hears things differently than I hear things. And especially at the time we got married, I was girls basketball coach at Model and I was boys baseball coach there. And getting that female perspective helped me become a better girls basketball coach at that time because I only knew coaching one way, and that was the way I grew up as a boys basketball player and a boys baseball player in high school. And so I was just used to be guys, and that's the way we talk to each other. And I thought, hey, my girls basketball players hear me the way that I hear it. No, it's different. And so I think for all of us, as we get older, we also realize you've named 5 teachers and they're all male teachers, but I know you've learned some things from some of the female teachers too that have made you a better Christ follower, has also made you better to walk into your profession, whether it's ministry, whether it's business, what have you. And that's certainly true for me. Dr. Kett is now our principal, and I work side by side with her. She's the first female principal that I've worked under, but I've grown under that tutelage too because she's just such a good communicator, both in writing and also in the way that she comes across orally in front of our faculty when we have faculty meetings. She just has a great sense of communication and getting across what really needs to get communicated in that moment in time and staying calm and under control.
Yeah. Female teacher, I definitely remember provided significant change in my life, especially in regards to anger when I was younger. She's no longer at LCA, but Mrs. Pettigrew, I don't know if you remember her.
Mrs. Pettigrew.
Amazing teacher I had growing up. Just really, she saw me in my anger, I think. I was much too young then to understand, so I'm trying to recall the best I can, but I remember feeling like she saw me in my anger. It wasn't something like, oh, he's mad again, got to deal with this again, or just get out of here. It was, she saw me in my anger. She saw the things I was struggling with. And I felt a deep care about me. Like, it's not just go to the principal's office and cool off. Like, she cared enough that she wanted to help walk me through it and help me care and like deeply care about me and walking through that and helping me with that. And that was a terrific year where I learned some amazing things that helped me conquer anger. And then while I'm at college, there's only one female professor in the religion department. However, I am the only guy in the religion department in my class. So in the class of
Wow.
2027 in the religion department, I'm the only dude.
Wow.
Yeah, oh, I know. I'm surrounded. And let me just say, our male professors are much more daughter-minded than son-minded, to put it that way.
They better be. If they got a
Yeah,
room full of females, they better be more daughter-minded.
absolutely. And I have some guy friends that are just different, that are in the religion department, just different classes, different ages. But it's been an amazing change of pace for me because in terms of the Bible studies I've been in, the ministry I've been a part of, I've been around some amazing men that spoke a lot of good life into me, a lot of good, strong life. And so when I'm around these female classmates and we talk theology together and we talk about, we've had our own little Bible studies, even in classes, not so much out of classes, but whenever we've had these conversations, particularly in my freshman year, we couldn't connect because I was just my heart was harder than theirs was. I couldn't connect to them. I couldn't understand the way that they thought and felt. And there's still some ways today I still can't understand it. But what I've learned and through just being around them and learning about them, and Trevecca's got I think 3-to-1 women to men population. So even just overall, there's more women around campus than men. I've figured out, okay, I can't just go around calling everybody bro anymore. I can't.
Yeah, that's not going to work.
No, it doesn't fly very well. So I've had to learn how to be more careful with how I'm speaking and with who I'm speaking to, because you just don't know. Like you said, when you were coaching over at Model, you thought the girls were taking it how you took it, and that's just not the case.
It's different.
I thought they would understand me how everybody here understood me growing up. But I grew up in Lexington, Kentucky my whole life. I went to the same school for almost my entire life. I was 1 year short of being a lifer. I'm still mad about it. I still think I should have been given the nod.
Was it preschool or
No,
kindergarten?
Kindergarten was the cutoff. I was I was first grade starter.
Okay.
Should have gotten the nod. But everybody, so through that environment, like I was never always the most socially aware kid, but I figured out how to do it in the context that I've been in my entire life. Even going to the small college that I do, I've got people, there's people like my roommate was from Dallas my freshman year. I've got teammates that were from Vegas, Texas. A lot of them were in that Nashville, Franklin area. A lot of them were local. None of them were from Kentucky. None of them knew the ways that I grew up, the ways that I was. I didn't know how they were either. And it provided a lot of conflict because I didn't understand how to deal with other people that didn't have the same background as I did. I've never had to deal with that before, and I already didn't handle these guys very well in the first place.
That's the beauty of college. That's the beauty of going into the military. That those young adult years, you getting outside of your home exposes you to all those things.
Yeah.
You get a chance to figure out, who am I? What does this world have to offer? And you also just get a chance to see, yeah, I know God's big, but he's way bigger than I thought he was.
Yes.
That's what helped me when I went to college. I was active in Campus Crusade for Christ my last 3 years of college. Now it goes by crew, but I can remember sitting in a prayer meeting on Monday nights. The weekly meetings were on Thursday nights, but prayer meetings were on Mondays. There may just be 20 people at prayer meeting, but just sitting around in small groups and hearing other people pray was so different. It was like, wow,
Yeah.
our God is big.
Oh yeah.
And God's family is diverse. And that's a good thing. It's not, we don't want 20 Keith Galloways in this prayer meeting praying about the same things. You having something to pray about opens my eyes to realize, man, there's needs out there that I was totally unaware of.
Yeah.
Because just by hearing you pray, or vice versa. So again, having the female male gender and being able to hear one of your female teachers express something in class is, oh yeah, that's an area I hadn't even thought of.
Yeah.
God's at work over here and I didn't even realize it.
Yeah. So, forces you to reconstruct yourself. Forces you to really think, man, it's not just about me. there's a whole new world, a whole new type of people. And especially while I was learning that my freshman year, tough to learn. I came back sophomore year, and even like that summer between freshman and sophomore year was when I went through my event with Rise Up Kings, and then actually got my first W-2 job that summer as well, which I can't believe I went that long without one. But lived a charmed life. Like I learned a lot of new things, how to do things a lot better, and I came back sophomore year, and my teammates actually started to like me. You know what I mean? It was a nice it was just an amazing thing to go through. It was tough, but
I remember you going to that conference and coming back and sending me some of the notes that you wrote.
yeah,
And I'm like, this is awesome.
yeah,
I could tell that you were growing big time just from that weekend. And
changed my life.
yeah, so
Changed my life
that's
completely.
awesome. And again, there's humility in me accepting your notes that you sent me and me
Yeah,
wanting to learn from those. And what does that prompt me? I could send you notes on something else and both of us get a chance to grow from it.
yeah,
Again, sharing is good. And again, we have to have the willingness to listen.
100%.
And you pouring into those freshman guys, yeah, you want to speak truth to them, but you also got to listen because you'll learn from them as much as they'll learn from you.
Absolutely. Try to keep my heart open. I've never been one of those guys that was like, oh, you're just a dumb freshman. Even when I was a TA for Madam Treese my senior year for a class of freshmen,
Yeah.
now easier for me because they knew more French than me than I ever will at the time when I joined. But in terms of just maybe life advice now and then, I actually went out to dinner took one of them to dinner this past summer. Is we just grown in love, grown in, and I've helped him a bit, but I also learned from him a little bit. I learned that's where I really learned. Oh, I, I learned how to be a big brother. And I've had a little sister for 17 years, but I've never really learned how to be at least a good big brother, at least with her. I've made a lot of mistakes, and some of that's just you live with them, it's different. But through that was my first real experience where I was like, okay, I'm maybe starting to put some of that together about okay, I can do it this way. That's probably not a good way to do it. And it's learning from those, even those that are younger than me, honestly, are some of the best lessons I've ever learned.
Yeah. I was in Farmhouse, which is a national international fraternity. It was at UK at the time when I was there, and I lived in the house. And so some of those semesters I may have two roommates, some of those semesters I may have three roommates. But you can guarantee no matter whether you have three roommates in there or whether you have two, you're all going to be different. Now, I had one roommate, his name was Steve. I won't say his last name, but I love him to death. But his corner of the room was, we were both in the back part of the room. And so you had two people in the front part and we had back part. I was on this side, he was on your side. His clothes would start at the front door into our room and go all the way back there along the floor. Like he could not keep his clothes contained to his corner of the room. But what do you do on that? You just learn to love people. You learn to realize that little things are little things. Don't make them bigger things than they need to be. I could have been mad every day of my life rooming with him just on that fact alone. But there's so much more to life than just a few clothing articles on the floor. But that was great preparation for me as a dad and as a husband because your kids, your family, your spouse are not going to be exactly like you in the way that you keep order in the house.
Yeah.
So you can be frustrated and angry all the time, 24/7, or you can learn to get past some of those things and realize the most important thing is for us to love each other.
Yeah. I've got no experience to go with this, but plenty of theory. But when I think about people that, like myself, for example, that put their heart and soul into a sport or into a certain thing like golf, right? And most people like myself would be like, my kid's getting into golf. All right. He doesn't have a choice in the matter. He's getting into golf. And there's a level of, I think my kids should get into sports. I think there's a lot of good life lessons there. If they don't want to play golf, then they never have to go play golf. I want you to be the best you that you can be. Me playing golf growing up was me being the best version of me. Like my dad's main sport growing up was basketball and track. I didn't do either of those. In fact, you watched me play basketball in eighth grade. I wasn't very good at it, was I?
I was past my prime, but I still was able to beat you in our little one-on-one game.
I was. I forgot about that. Oh, that's terrible. But yeah, see, like that's just not my game.
But if we would have gone to the golf course,
Different story.
It would have been a whole different story.
Yeah, different story. It's a different.
I'd
like,
still be back on hole number one, hitting my fifth, sixth, seventh shot, and you would be on hole number two, ready to tee off. Yeah, I was done three swings ago.
But like my dad allowed me to be that. He allowed me to be the golfer that I am. And of course, he introduced me to the game. But from there, I was able to be that. I didn't feel pressure from my dad to be a golfer. He wanted me to be. He knew how good I was. He wanted that for me, but I didn't feel pressure from him. At the end of the day, the success I had in golf, the amount of hours I put into it, I chose to do. And at the end, it's made my relationship with my dad the best that it ever really could have been. And it's awesome. Letting people grow into who they are supposed to be.
And God's given you specific DNA, different personality than your mom or your dad. May have some similarities of both, but you're different than your sister for sure.
That's right.
And Lacey's going to have her own skill set and her own life experiences that are going to help serve the kingdom and make the kingdom a better place.
Yeah.
And we don't want Lacey to be exactly like Luke, and we don't want Luke to be exactly like Lacey. We want you both to step into God's ministry using your tools and your gift set.
That's exactly right. Coach, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate it. This was a great conversation. I enjoyed it.
I love you, brother.
Yeah, love you, Coach.
Just keep growing.
Absolutely. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Living for His Glory. I had such an amazing time making it, and I really hope it connected and impacted you on a significant level. I love making and recording episodes like these. I truly believe that they fulfill the Living for His Glory mission, which is to help you break free of your worldly chains and step into the person that God has called you to be. I love you guys. I hope you guys got a lot out of this. I hope that it changes something about how you do this week. I hope you have a good day and a good week as we continue to get ready for next week's episode. Have a good day, guys, and I'll see you later.